yes, we've had some struggles with Con IT, and I'm not going to stand up here and say this rolled out any way that we thought it should have. We made some mistakes. We took a lot of risks in certain areas, and we've actually started turning the corner. And as I told General Holt, yeah, we turned the corner, but this is like NASCAR. 2 seconds ahead, there's another corner. And it's a non-stop racetrack with this, when you talk about IT. It's just non-stop. So, here's the overview, but really what I want interaction. And I know they allocated me more time for Q&A at the end of this. How you doing, man? Sorry. Actually, you're in my brief. But if you have any questions at any time, you're more than welcome to just come up and start hitting me with the questions. And that's the only way we're going to be able to get this out as a community. Because this is not Patrick's system. This is not AQCI's system. This is an AQC system. This is your system for the future. And you see what everybody's trying to do with changing the processes and enabling our warfighters and ensuring you have the tools you need to do the mission. So at the end of this, if you're not providing us feedback, well, you really shouldn't be complaining to me. Because we need your feedback to make this system your system. And we're going to give you the avenues to give you to allow you to give us that feedback. So slide, please. Please do.
Can you turn this mic? Thanks. Just to be clear, we have all the time that you need. Okay? I say that, half jokingly for Patrick. I love to pick on him. But I'm serious about that because this is the #1 pain point right now in Air Force contracting.
Yes.
And I fully acknowledge that. We have all the time that you need. Okay? And what he just said, complain as much as you want. As long as you understand there's no going back. Right? So we have to team up and make this work.
Yep.
But if you need to kick the dust at the water cooler, do it, man. Because I know how hard this is. So I just want you to hear from the horse's mouth. That's why I've got this microphone in my hand, because, Patrick may need, some moral support.
Yeah, I look like I need moral support.
But I understand it. I understand it in the details. I've been through it in the details, and I'm telling you, everybody involved in this enterprise understands very clearly the sense of urgency that we need to have. But we've got some scary times yet ahead, as Patrick said. We are getting better, but we've got some challenges ahead as we get towards end of fiscal year, okay? So I'm going to let him keep going, but yeah, no get out of jail free card here, Patrick.
I'm good with that. I'm good. All right, so I'm going to give you a little history. So this is our overview of Con IT, and Ms. Bullock did a great job yesterday of saying why we need this, so I'm not going to go over that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history, and this is where General Masiello comes in, because when we started this, she was in the chair, and we really... Yeah, I'm calling out everyone that was involved. So we started with O contracts and E's, and we had to go fight for that tool to give it to our folks over in the AFCWWTS AOR. And we really struggled to do that. And then we said, okay, we want to try to do this Air Force wide. So we took it up the chain and had to fight the CMO to get the funding to make it a true program. And all we really wanted to do at that time was focus in on contract writing. That's all it was. Because that was our problem space. That's what we thought the problem space was, because SPS was retiring. But there was a gentleman up there, Mr. Tillotson at the time, who said, that's not your problem. And we're like, I really do think it is. SPS is retired. Here's a letter, sir. He's like, no, you need to go back and look at contracting processes as a whole. And that's where we had to go back and spend the next 3 to 4 years looking at our problem space as contracting and figure out where we can do better. And that's BPR, all that stuff. But during that time, Congress and our Air Force leadership started shifting towards agile development. And agile is kind of contradictory to that, where you do just-in-time requirements. You sit down with a developer and say, this is the way we want to go do it, and you go do it. So we tried to employ that halfway through this, and that's why ConIT's been through numerous false starts. But one of the false starts was Congress actually had us come to the Hill as the department, so we had the Army, Navy, and Air Force there, and DOD, to explain why we're going separate paths, because the budget for contract writing systems at that time was $1.5 billion for contract writing. And Congress says, how is that possible? This isn't that hard. But what they were focusing in on was contract writing. And you're right, if you focus in on that very narrow problem space, it's very easy. But when you're trying to automate an enterprise like Air Force contracting and business rules and those sorts of things, that's a very big problem space. So we went up and we did it as a DOD, and then they came back to the Air Force alone and said, Air Force, I want to hear more about what you're doing, because you're employing agile, you're employing what we want you to do, and we want to hear more about it, and we want your input on what laws we can change to support what you're trying to do. So this is where I'd like Jack Nemceff to stand up. Now, when we got called to the Hill, imagine us, and I have to brief, taking Jack Nemceff, Colonel Nemceff at the time, and we're like, God, please don't say anything. No, but during that brief, it was amazing to watch the staffers change the way they thought about what we're doing in Air Force contracting. It really was. They supported us 110%. In fact, they said, how much more money do you need? So we went back and started doing the budget thing, and we got fully funded across the programs all the way. We have the CMO approval. We got so much support in the Pentagon and at the Hill right now. It's just amazing. The leadership has really bought in on what we're doing. The unfortunate part is when we deployed to the operational community, we did so, next slide please. We did so in what we thought was a methodical way. We really did put some thought behind it. So we had one site, it was the 12th Air Force. And is there any 12th Air Force folks here? No? They bought a bag of ice. That was our first purchase. A bag of ice for the Panama exercise they were doing down in Panama. So then we did 8 EOC sites. And what that was, okay, let's see how it operates in a true operational environment and see what happens. Knowing that it was a minimum viable product is what it's called. And it didn't have all the bells and whistles. It still doesn't have all the bells and whistles. But it didn't have full capability whatsoever. It was just a minimum viable product to produce a contract. And it went okay, and we thought it was okay enough to start deploying to the remaining sites. And we did, again, we thought through this process. What's the best time to deploy a contract writing system? October, November, December. Because of CRAs, because of leaves, because of everything else that's going on. So that's the period we chose to do it. And we were doing all right until Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving, we tanked. We tanked hard. And you know what happened after Thanksgiving? We took on some of the largest organizations in operational contracting, and the data just overwhelmed the system. And we did the testing. We tested 5,000 users on ConIT, and it worked. But what we didn't test was 5,000 users with data. And that is a huge lesson learned for any system that's out there. Any system. And I've told the Army and my Navy counterparts, because they're just starting their ventures, and they're 2 years out from deploying. They're at least 2 years out. We're deployed. We're getting better. But when we're deploying these IT systems, and we got the PEO here as well, we need to do a better job of testing. And we know that in Air Force contracting, and part of what we're doing is bolstering our testing going forward to make sure when we deploy something to you all, it doesn't break 5 different other things. And that's what we're seeing right now, because we're in a reactionary mode. We're trying to get the performance up while delivering capability, and that's a fine balance. There's a fine balance. But right now, we're about 50-50. So that was our thought process, and the reason the sequence of sites the way they were, it was during the agile development phase, we put USAF and PACAF at the back end because of foreign currency. The unfortunate part, the performance hit us, so we had to redirect our resources to the performance and had USAF and PACAF out there without foreign currency support. And that, we just were too far into the deployment to shut it off. We really were at that point. So we had to take a bullet and try to redirect and go into the manual mode a little bit and those sorts of things. But we are getting the foreign currency back up online right now. We are making progress in capabilities, and we continue to do so. But again, I'm going to say, we need your feedback, because I think I know what you all need, but if I don't know what you need, you're going to get something that you probably don't need. So you got to give us the feedback. All right, slide please. So, how were we successful? Well, we deployed to 105 sites, and I don't like touting that, because we really broke, in many cases, 105 sites in other ways. And I fully own that. We did. But we're getting better again. We delivered to 4,692 users. We migrated 38,760 contracts. That's amazing. With a 99.6% success rate. And that's a credit to you all out in the field, because your PDS compliance rate was outstanding. Great job. And we're going to have a heck of a time when we come to the weapons and logistics centers, because there's no PDS compliance. So we're trying to do workarounds in this area to get you on Con IT. I'm shooting for 20%. I'm aiming high. So we got a lot of work in that area, but we got a great team that does the data migration. And I want you all to go back, and I know when we all stood up, there were some folks in here that probably remember the SPS transition. Do you know what our success rate was on data migration with SPS? 15%. It was horrible. And we had to manually load, you remember that, sir? We had to manually load a lot of contracts. And you want to talk about painful? And I'm not trying to compare, but SPS rollout was a very painful process. It was a very painful process. So I was hoping we'd do better. We've stumbled. We're digging ourselves out of a hole, and we will get better with your input back to us. Slide, please. So what happened? This is what happened. I'm not going to go through all these, but we really did take a lot of lessons learned from what how we deployed. And the biggest thing I took away is testing. We got to do better at testing our products. And that's across the board for all IT in the Air Force. That's just not Con IT. That's every IT system out there. We got to do better, because we got to deliver the tool to enable the warfighter, not make them create workarounds. I hate that word workaround. I despise that word. And I know you're all going through a lot of it right now. We will get those workarounds brought down. It's going to take time, but we will do it. And you know, we're delivering capability every week now. Every week we're delivering something out there. Some fix, some patch, some bug. And we're still developing on larger capabilities every 3 weeks through the sprint cycle. So we're still delivering capabilities. It's just not as fast as I want. Or you need. I'll say what you need. So the help desk was another pain point. We realized that. They just got overwhelmed. That's all it was. We have a great group of folks down there at Gunner Help Desk. And you saw they got awarded yesterday for their work at Tyndall. Huge. They do a monumental job down there. And it's hard, because you're sitting there and you're the eye or the ears of the users out there, and they're mad. And they have a right to be mad. But they're doing one of the hardest jobs, I think, in managing the help desk tool. But what we did is we finally got the help desk ticket intake at a manageable level. We've submitted, we have our FRB members supporting the input of tickets down there. And we are continually looking for areas we can improve in this area. We're hiring 4 additional individuals at the USDA to support the help desk development, which will again get you capabilities and patches out quicker. And we're also contracting out the level 1, level 2 help desk. And we will continue to look at areas where we can improve in this area, because there is nothing more frustrating when you call the help desk and they say, hey, it's in the log. I know, I hate it, but we'll get there. Part of what also happened during that time is, you know, the DOD was funded. USDA is not DOD. So the CRA hit them, and they had to take a 60% cut in personnel. We didn't know that, because what we did immediately when we heard that there's a 60% cut, we picked up the phone and called the USDA executive and said, sir, we need these folks back online because you're affecting Air Force mission now. And luckily, the individual was a prior Marine, and he says, I got you. And he brought those people back within a week. The whole team came back within a week. So again, we learned these lessons, and we will never have this problem again, because now they're affecting Air Force mission worldwide, and they know that. Slide, please. So moving forward, what are we going to do? We know there's no one size fits all. I mean, we got weapons, logistics, R&D, operational, contingency. There's no one size that fits all that. But we can standardize at some level across the enterprise, and that's what we're going to do. User-centric development. Part of what I've told my staff is I want to hire a human-centered design team that works directly for AQCI, so they can sit down with you all and listen and watch you go through the process and figure out ways how to streamline the system to support what you do, not have the system dictate how you should do your job. That's the thing about what we have. The tool we have full, what's the word I'm looking for? We can do whatever we want. It's a BPM tool. We can put the process out there and do whatever we want. If General Holt wants to push down authority down to the lowest level, all it is a click and a button, and it goes down to wherever we say it needs to go. That's what this tool gives us. It's our tool. That's why I keep saying it's our tool. We can define how it's used across the Air Force operational contracting, or Air Force contracting as a whole, initially operational contracting. Our number one priority is delivering capability. And I tell you, I know this is an area we failed in, and we're correcting it. Of the additional 4 folks we did at the help desk, we are so plussing up the actual development team by 14, I believe is what it is. So we're going to have about 75 developers at USDA developing our tool. And once we get out of this backlog that we got right now, once we dig out, you're going to see a lot of capabilities start rolling out very quickly. Because once they get their feet under them, they can start flying. It's just new right now. And granted, I want you all to understand, we've only been deployed, fully deployed, 105 days. 105? 105 days. That's all we've been fully deployed. That's not a whole lot of time. One of the things is General Holt has told us he wants to put a fun meter in Con IT. And we took this literally. I don't know if he meant it literally, but we did. So what we have the USDA working on and looking at is, as we're developing our capabilities, we're going to put a little like Yelp rating type thing in the tool, and you're going to tell us how we did about that certain capability we just delivered. And if we failed, we're going to fix it. That's my promise to you. If it's good, we're going to say, okay, what did we do right in this area, because that's what our users have wanted to see. But we cannot have failed capability any longer. We just can't. So we're putting the fun back in functional. And that meter will be in there. We're still working the performance issues right now. So once we get into that, can put that to bed, we're going to put that fun meter in, and we need your feedback. And we may mandate some of it, because until we get this feedback to really see where we're at as a program, we're just kind of shooting in the wind, hoping we're hitting your targets that you want us to hit. Okay? And we want to hear from any user. And I like what, don't remember which leader said it, but don't shut up. Don't shut up. Keep them coming at me. Oh, that was you, sir? Probably should have. Damn! Yeah. So, wow. Yeah, exactly. I'm a civilian now. It really don't matter. No, so don't shut up. But I ask you to use the means that are available to you within the Air Force channels as well. I know we saw a lot of traffic on Facebook, and we're not trying to squash Facebook or anything else. But if we don't hear it through the official channels, it takes us longer to react to it because we don't monitor it. So when General Holt got word that, hey, it's blowing up out there, that's the first fireside chat you saw. It shouldn't have taken that long for that. Right. We have our SharePoint site. Oh, uh, um, uh, it was a very long question.
I see. Thanks, Pat. So I will be more concise in my question. So I know you have hundreds of help desk tickets.
Yes, ma'am.
And to me, in my mind, if I'm a user, my primary means of getting you feedback is help desk tickets. But every time you talk, you say you're not getting feedback. So my quandary is, if the field thinks that the way you're getting feedback is help desk tickets, and I think DJ, you said, was helping to bucketize those into the ones that were most immediate and actually prioritize those. So that's great. But my question is, and I just don't understand, if the field thinks that the primary means to get you feedback is help desk tickets, and you've got tons of those, but you continually say you're not getting feedback, what mechanism specifically are you looking for that feedback that you feel you're not getting?
So the help desk is there to take in problems, true problems with the system. What we have is a SharePoint site that where we need your comments and how we can do things better. And that is in the deck. It's one of the backup slides. We can send it out. We've sent it out. You all did this. Everybody that's been up here has had you all stand up. I'm just gonna have you raise your hand. How many of you seen our newsletters? ConIT newsletters. There's a lot of folks that haven't seen one. That's the problem, because right in that newsletter, it clearly says, if you need feedback, if you want to provide us feedback, here's the link to go do so. That's where your primary means for items such as, new capabilities, great ideas. We monitor that all the time. So that would be the mechanism, man. Okay? All right. I think that's it for that one, right? All right, next slide. Should I hit something? Who put tea in my? I'm joking. That's a joke. Okay. She says when you have a question, raise your hand and they'll bring the mic to you. Oh, it's working. Hold on. No, I'm playing. It should be. Yeah. See, it's just not ConIT. I'm pushing the button. There it goes. All right. All right, so what lies ahead? Help desk and ONS. So here's what we did here is highlight. We had 6 bug fixes for documents stuck in review, which resolved 18 tickets. So as we're going through these, we're not doing the one eaches, as General Holt likes to say. We need to find the root cause of these problems so they don't keep reoccurring. And I know that may take a little longer to resolve your individual issue, but if If you work with us through this process, we can resolve the enterprise issue much quicker. And that's what we're doing. Another one, the document stuck in release, that was more a one-for-one rate. But then you see the funding issue, 2 bug fixes, resolved 16 issues. In no way are we out of the woods yet. I am not going to stand up here and say we're out of the woods. We are not. I'm not even sure I can see out of the woods yet. But we're going to get there. We will get there, working with the program office and our USDA team. Slide, please. All right, so what lies ahead for system performance? And this is a little worrisome for us. Right now, we're averaging about 300 concurrent users across the Air Force on a daily basis. Well, actually, it's about 270, I think. We're averaging 270 concurrent users in the Air Force right now. When we did an analysis a few years ago, I believe now, with SPS, we looked at how many concurrent users do we need at the end of the fiscal year. And it's about 1,500 is where we're averaging concurrent users across the Air Force. So as you see, we can't even get to 600 yet. And we're working with the program office to get there. It's very worrisome for us right now. And we have the PEO looking at figuring out how we're going to make that happen. And is that through the cloud? Is that multiple databases? They're looking at many avenues to make this happen.
Yeah, let me add one comment to that too. So this is my number one concern. Now, I know we've gotten better with the latency, but that's just a temporary gain. Because when we get towards end of fiscal year and you see the concurrency come up, you know, we've got the testing tools fixed, right? So now when they test it, they're realizing, uh-oh, can't even get to 600, right? And then you start to see the latency again. And I know you're still seeing some latency, so don't get me wrong. However, there have been many, many users out there that have user accounts, but when they ran into the brick wall that we ran into, they pulled out and they have not gotten back in. And so there's a whole number of user accounts out there that are not being used or not part of the concurrency. As much as I would like to believe the testing tools are better now, I need y'all to get back in the system. And what I need you to do is get back in the system now, because I don't want to wait till...
That's not me. I didn't do anything, so swear to God. Swear to God. I did not touch myself.
I turned my back on Patrick for a second. So those that lost faith and didn't come back in, I need you back in soon, because we need to know reality. If it's gonna recur, we need to know that, right? So anyway, but patience is the key here. But he's right. We've got a Rubik's Cube of a problem here, and we need everybody on the same side of the table and the problem's on the other side of the table. And I know it's frustrating, and we got to have patience through this process. But I can guarantee you, the PMO is on it, on the tip of the spear, and they feel the sense of urgency, and they're trying to hire folks as fast as they can. USDA is hiring folks as fast as they can. We're retooling the help desk, both in expertise and the more technical expertise, and the amount of bodies in it. That feedback tool that we have where you can go directly to AQCI through that link that Patrick talked about, use that, use your FRB members. We just got to team up around it and get busy with getting this problem solved. So, but this is the biggest thing that keeps me up at night, and what I've told the PMO in USDA is, if it is not going to work, if we're not on a glide slope, we need to know that soon, because I need to advise the Chief and the Secretary of the Air Force that we could lose Air Force Total Obligation Authority at the end of this fiscal year. And I need to tell them that soon, if that is a real threat. What you might see us doing, though, I know I'm stealing Patrick's thunder, but we're actually going to come up with a contingency plan where the whole Air Force contracting family can get together around a contingency plan if we have to go to it, where we will stagger the times of uptime across the globe so that when it is your region's turn to be up, you're up. And then the next region moves forward so that we artificially lower the concurrent user count, okay? So anyway, we're going to be getting that together. Hopefully we don't have to go there, but it's a good idea to start thinking that way together.
Roger that, sir. Thank you. Slide, please. All right, so here's the program offices. This is a program office chart of how they're going to get there. And as you said, right now what they're doing is they're adding more memory and CPUs right now. And they think that'll really help in this performance area. The acquisition is ongoing, and what I've asked is, how can we speed up that acquisition? So that's what they're looking at, seeing what we can do to accelerate the acquisition of those items so we can start seeing some progress made in this area. So slide, please. All right, so what lies ahead? It's a balanced approach. And I know there's a lot of stuff up here, but there's a lot of things going on. But we have to balance the technical debt, which is the performance, with functionality, which is what you need to use, what you need to do your mission. And we're balancing that. We have a backlog of items that we prioritize that we give to the USDA. That's where, if that's us thinking through the FRB and everyone else, thinking what your priorities are out there. And that's why if you don't provide us a feedback, we're going to continue to do that. But if you have a priority, get it to your FRB members, get it to the site, get it to whomever up the chain, send it to me, I don't care, and we will get it addressed accordingly, okay? But that's where we're working, and one of the big areas is filling the vacancies. We're pushing USDA to get these folks on contract real quick. Another thing over there on the right side is flattening the base code. That's really taking it, I shouldn't have even started in this area because I don't know it, but taking the database from a linear and flatten it out, which makes the queries go much faster, is what I'm being told. So it speeds up the system much more efficient, makes the system much more efficient. And then down at the bottom, here's some of the things we're working. Combined synopsis solicitation, getting that out to the field is a big one. Date time stamp, time zone stamp. Right now, it's set on Hawaii time due to the end of fiscal year. But what we're really trying to do is switch it back to, where the user sits, date and time. So at the end of the fiscal year, that comes across correctly. And then business intelligence. We're really pushing hard. We have set up another team to push business intelligence and incorporate the AFBIT-like capability into Con IT directly so you don't have to go to 3 or 4 different tools. It's all within those tools. And on that, I will say, I don't know if it's in this slide or next, but we're not recreating the wheel each and every time. And I think, I'll get to that, I'm sorry. So this slide right here, we're not the only one modernizing. You see up here, there's a lot of things going on at the DoD level, and we have to interact with it all. What we're trying to do in Con IT is take all that off your plate so you don't need to worry about it. We're trying to automate as much as possible at that DoD level. So you don't need to worry about logging into 15 systems. You can log into Con IT and do your job. And the information you input into the system, and we're a data-centric world, the more data we have, the more answers we can answer for you going forward. I know one of the big issues is clause logic service. That's the DoD mandated clause logic service. I know it's not there yet, and they know it's not there yet. We're working with them to make it better. We've just implemented a couple fixes in Con IT for the formatting of the clauses that are coming from the clause logic service. So these are the areas that we own this whole problem space. AQCI owns this whole problem space. But we do have external folks that dictate how certain things go, and we're working with them to try to make it as seamless as possible for you and enable you to be the contracting professionals and business leaders of the future. So slide, please. So what can you do to help? General Holt said, use Con IT. The more folks we can get on this system now, the better off we're going to be in September. So we can really assess where we're at. Constructive feedback via the SharePoint, site super users, FRBs, weekly calls. We started weekly calls with your site super users that are out there. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from those calls, a lot of great feedback. And there's a lot of crosstalk. And what we're finding, we've developed a knowledge-based document for our users. A lot of them didn't even know it was out there. So they started seeing it, and now it starts making sense. A lot of what we're seeing right now is some of it's training, some of it's not doing business as usual, because we're not going to be able, SPS was a very open system. It was really open. And you could do whatever you really wanted to, whether it was in accordance with the current regulations or not. So we have to do better in this area and to get to the clauses to where we're a much better success rate with clauses and those sorts of things. We got to start changing our business processes.
Yeah, so let me make a comment on that too. If you've been listening to the theme, right, I also don't want systems driving contracting officer decisions, okay? So obviously our priority is to get functional and get your mission up and running, right? In a reliable way. However, we will be poking back at DoD on the clause system and however that interfaces with ConIT to make sure that when it spits out the clauses, I know you're getting duplicate clauses, you're getting clauses that you don't want in your contract because you decide they don't apply because you're smarter than the system, or you decide you want a clause, right, that the system decided for you didn't want. Your job is to be an expert in contracting, ladies and gentlemen, and you don't need to be relying on a system to be the expert for you, okay? So as you train folks, tell them to go break out FAR 53, baby, right, on a few that you have time on, because you need to understand your business, your craft. You need to understand what those incorporated by reference clauses are and what the prescriptions are that mandate those, right? We got to get back to those basics in knowledge. But once you have that, it's your decision. It's the contracting officer's decision what that contract looks like, right? And in the end, at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure that when that thing spits out, you can change whatever you want to change in that contract. That's your contract, okay?
Great. IT, Mr. Robinson talked about from 7:30 to 4. It's pretty bad. Maybe if you got off ESPN, it'd be a little quicker. No, I'm playing. Just joking. No, so it is. Network is a big issue. But what we found is to enable telework, if you VPN in to the network, it actually works a whole lot quicker. ConIT works a whole lot quicker if you're not on the actual physical base network. If you VPN'd into it, it seems to run a little bit better. So I'm not telling you all you get to go telework. I am not saying that. I'm just telling you that's some of the results we're seeing today. And I don't know, maybe that's across the board to any website. I know when I VPN in, on my home network, it does work pretty quickly. But again, that's just a little tidbit there. And we do got cybersecurity. And we can't sacrifice cybersecurity for anything, especially when you're talking about contracting data and what we're trying to do as an Air Force. So we have to balance that. There is a balance, and we're working with A6 on what that balance is. I tell you, one of the biggest frustrating things that I see on a daily basis is that 2875 process. I hate that thing. It is the most, if I could cuss, if that video wasn't on there. But we're working with the program office and with DoD to get rid of that, so we don't have to do that. Your supervisors and you should know what your people should be doing in the system. That's your. Why do I need a piece of paper to say that?
I'm going to clap on that.
I got one. All right. What's the question, sir? Okay.
Not about ESPN.
Yeah. It's Final Four. Anyway, get involved and encourage everyone to get involved. When you go back to your organizations, get involved. Provide that feedback to the FRB, SSUs, data calls, user, however you can get that information through the SharePoint site, email me directly or my staff directly. Give us that feedback. Again, this is our future. It's not mine alone. It's not General Holtz alone. It's ours. So get us that feedback. And I think that's the last slide, right? Nope. All right, questions? Nope. Thank you.
So a couple of thoughts and then a question. So you got this monster coming, and it's called the weapons system side. And I was just down with the folks down at Gunter. You're right, they're doing things that are amazing for the amount of people that they have. But we are dying, and we've been dying for, it is a slow, painful death with Conrad. And then whoever did 7.0 update, I don't know who does those things. That person ought to be shot. We went back 2 years because of that debacle. But where are we as far as implementing into us, and how are we going to do it, and how are we going to I mean, 150 cleanse, you talk about data. I mean, then you can add that on top of, you know, what is already going on operational. So I didn't see a plan up there for that. I know it's 2.0, but I'd love to see more fidelity on that.
Yes, sir, and I agree. We need to have that conversation, because how much money do we keep investing into Conrite versus modernizing and getting a Con IT? Yes, sir. So increment 2, we were planning on starting it in July, the requirements, but based on this performance issue that we just had, everything's, you know, just piling up to the right. So until I can give you a firm, okay, we've solved the performance problem, I can't give you when we're going to start developing it.
I can tell you, it definitely will not be before the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
No way. We got to focus on making sure that we don't have a huge problem with the existing users at the end of fiscal year.
So don't take the money away for Conrad.
It's not.
Oh yeah, no, we won't. Yeah, what he said is don't take the money away from Conrite. Yeah, I get that.
It's in the budget.
Yeah.
For right now, it's through 25. Is what I got.
So with regard to Conrite, I will tell you A89, AFMC A89 went up for the Palm Parade, etc. And we told them, if you want to bring mission failure to the Air Force, take zeroed out, go for it. Telling you, I think it was like March 4th or something, go for it. We'll be dead. Thank you very much. So don't know where it is in the whole big scheme of life, but they were trying to cut, again, Conrite and other things, and so not in that realm up in the building, but we told them, if you do this, we're all dead. I don't know the stats, sir, no.
Roger that, sir.
We'll take an action to figure out where the budget is in AFMC for that.
Oh, the budget is secured for Conrad through 23 right now. I know that. Yes, I just saw the PEM documents.
Oh, okay, good. So
we're good for
it is good.
But again, we go through this fight every year with Conrad, every year, and it's right now you're good to go.
So I sent my folks a note just letting them know that you were taking questions on Facebook right now, and somebody sent in a note that says, who is, and I'm not sure they're even from Robbins, but they said, who is the contractor supporting developing Con IT at USDA?
It's an organization called ACE Info. Yeah. So, yes, so it's like that software factory that was described earlier. The USDA is ahead of us in that area, and that's what they have a software factory out of Fort Collins, and that's all they do is develop applications such as this for their support. And they got approval to go outside of USDA, and we were really one of their first big customers in that area.
Okay, and I have a question I know I've heard some of my folks ask. Is there any ability to delegate to the super users, any ability to fix things at the local basis?
Yes, General Holt's pushing that very hard, very hard. But we do have some challenges with the cyber security folks, and they're a little worried about how much we can actually push down. So we're trying to balance all that. We're fixing the warrants issue, which is, I know, a big one, and the document unlock one. We're trying to get that pushed down. The problem with the document unlock, for those of you that don't know, the document unlock is, in order to unlock it, you have to have what they call a designer view, which lets you go into the entire application and really start coding, which is a huge security risk. So we're trying to figure out if we can block all that rest of the stuff out and just get that document unlocked. So that's what we're working on there. Yes, ma'am.
Well, yeah,
My
one
name's
thing.
Pete Rolfe. I'm from Beale Air Force Base. I'm super user. I had some concerns with the super user privileges as well, but maybe some recommendations with that. And I also have 30 years of comm experience, and the 2875 is a 25-year-old antiquated system that needs to go. But with that said, maybe with our boldness and our ability to speed things, the super users could simply send an email, digitally signed email, to the help desk with our requests, unlock user, or this guy has a warrant now, please give him a warrant, without having to do a 2875 mod request, routing, uploading to a separate help desk, which we now have 2 help desks.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe we can speed everything up, and I was wondering if we could get your help to enable these to happen.
We're already working it, but yes, that's the kind of input we need, because we did get an email saying, why am I going to 2 different people for this? And I agree. So we're working on exactly what you described. I want to actually give you the right to go in and unlock a user. I mean, 30 days is a comm regulation. I don't know which comm regulation. If a user's inactive for 30 days, you're supposed to be locked out of any system. I mean, that's basic comm stuff. But then a site super user should have the right to go in and just reactivate that user when they come off of sick leave or TDYs or whatever it is. So that's what we're working on to, again, push as much as we can back to you to enable you to do your job as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes.
This is Justin Woodworth at Air Force OSR. I'm really confused at the idea of concurrent users being a problem. The gaming community has dealt with this problem for, I think, it's almost 30 years now. And there's games that exist today that have millions of concurrent users. I mean, I think the simplified answer to that solution is they use servers to end it. But for us to be here today as the Air Force talking about concurrent users being a problem in the hundreds blows my mind in the what are we doing and how are we not talking to the people who have already solved this?
Yeah, so so I had the same question on my mind when I went to Fort Collins, and I asked that question too, because certainly with the healthcare.gov and all the rest of the experiences that we've had, somebody somewhere knows how to do that, right? In fact, even Appian, right, knows how to do that. USDA knows how to do that. Here's the problem. Here's the problem that happened with Con IT. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I'll just tell you the truth. That's all I can give you is transparency. So when we looked at trying to, with the few dollars that we get to give tools to the business side, right, to the contracting community, there was risk taken on. And this agile approach, I almost hate to use that term because it like flies in the face of reality of what you're experiencing. But in that approach, the way this was done was to take an existing contract writing system that was in use at the time, and it was used by DISA, it was called the IDEAS program, and then reuse all of that code and add, so 80% of the functionality we need was already resident in the IDEAS program. And so the way the Air Force took the approach was to say the other 20% of additional functionality we need, that's where we'll focus USDA's coding efforts on, okay? So the entire enterprise thought that getting that 20% of additional functionality was really all that was needed to get done. Here's the problem. When they built the databases, he talked about flattening the databases, right? And when you code, you put, look, I just stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night, but no, I stayed at Wyndham, whoever's worried about that. But no, I have tried to understand this a little better because of what we're going through. But when they did the coding for the database management, they did not put filters in it because for the number of users that you have at DISA, that was an additional requirement that was not necessary. So you actually have built-in inefficiency that would never pop up because of the original use case for that program. And we didn't go back and look at that 80%. We looked at the 20%. So a lot of the problems we're having were in that 80% of the reused code. And so now it literally, of course, my simple mind from Georgia was, well, go back in and put the filters on, right? I mean, how long can that take, right? Well, as it turns out, it's not just one line of code that you have to do that with. It's everywhere. And so it's like whack-a-mole. And it's like find the next constraint and then go free that up. And then you find the next constraint and free that up, if that makes any sense. So what they're doing now is that growth plan for concurrent users is their best guess on how quickly they're going to get to the next constraining bottleneck and put the relational filters on it so that when it looks up data for you, it's not looking up all data, it's looking for the data that you specifically requested. So that's what was happening. When you say, I want this, it's looking for everything in the entire database, not just what you looked at, not the filtered information that you're looking for. So they do know how to do it, but that's the reason it happened. Okay, so now they're going back and they're putting the filters in, and that's what he's referring to by taking a very stacked data structure and flattening it out. But it is whack-a-mole. And so the scary part for me is, because what I asked in the last meeting we had is, well, can you predict what the growth plan is for concurrent users based upon looking at all of the unfiltered code? And the answer is no. It's like a bottomless well that you don't know what the next constraint is until you remove that last one. So if that makes any sense to you, that's as far as I can get on the technical side, but that is a great question, and it bothered me as well. But that's the answer to it. Whether you like that or not, that's where we are.
Excuse me. Hello. So I have a two-part question. The first question has to do with the feedback you're requesting. As a site super user, we have multiple weekly meetings with multiple different people. On top of the help desk tickets we are reporting, how does all of that information from different groups get compiled and then reported in order to determine priority? That's my first question. My second question has to do with the increments. Since everything hasn't gone according to plan, there was an increment expectation when ConIT initially rolled out. Due to where we are today, how has that increment timeline been pushed back, if it has, to where the operational community can either expect PR tracking for end of year all the way to contract closeout?
Okay, for your first question, my staff, along with the program office, are consolidating all this input that we get from the field, and your FRB members are then looking at it, racking and stacking it, and determining what those priorities are. So I urge you, if you have a hot priority, you need to run it up through your through a FICA and through your FRB members to say, this is my #1 priority. And then that's how we'll rack and stack it. Again, I don't want to do it. It needs to be you all racking and stacking the priorities. Your second question was, Oh, the increments. So we got away from the increments, which is a good thing, because now we kind of opened ourselves up to address certain areas more quickly. Because I know we got the weapons and logistics side that we need to start tackling, but now maybe we can actually get into the contract file more quickly. And the BI, the business intelligence, and you said to do the tracking of the PRs and those sorts of things. We're already working that piece of it. So once we took the increment label off of everything, then we can focus the program office in on what our Air Force priorities are going forward. So we're already working the BI, the business intelligence side of this, and we should see a prototype in June, if not sooner, and one of those is PR tracking. Okay?
Okay, Patrick, there was also a question from folks listening in on live streaming about when are we going to fix the EDA upload issue?
I think that was just fixed. I think. Stand by. I got a picture.
While you're finding that, I'll just expand on what his last comment was. Under Tools Not Rules, that team is going to be looking at all of this, all right? They're also going to be looking at what tools exist across Air Force contracting, because we have not come together as a team. There's tons of really cool tools out there that are very localized to different places around Air Force contracting. So we're going to take a look at what all those are. We know a few that we want to bring into Con IT's environment, as soon as possible. He mentioned the business intelligence capability. What we're doing is taking a look at the Air Force Business Intelligence tool, and what I've told them is, I want to bring that into Con IT's environment, but I don't want to lose any capability in that transition. Yep. And then KT file share, we did an electronic contract file on the cheap, right? Just SharePoint, so we avoid the whole DoD 5000 morass. We gave that, limited capability, but now I want to bring that electronic contract filing capability into Con IT. If I had this to do all over again, what would I want to do? I'd want to get the big money out of the Air Force and go do this right to begin with. But I'm telling you, that was not an option available, right? And so it is going to be a little bit piecemeal in getting there. But what my desire is that you have, like on a Friday, you have a different icon for your business intelligence and your electronic contract file, and a different icon for Con IT. And then you come in one morning and you're like, whoa, where did they go? And then you open one and it's all there. That's what I'm trying to go for. Now, job one is to get you back up and running with your mission, right? And to avoid the future problems that we see coming with the concurrent user stuff. So please be patient, but I just want to give you an idea of what the vision is to start giving you guys like a contracting dashboard of tools where you can go and access that, access any capability, and then it's tied. Does that make sense?
The EDA fix, I'm going to have to take that as an action item because I'm not sure where it is in the pipeline. But we'll get that checked out real quick. And maybe we can announce it during one of the breaks. I'll have the team look into it.
Other questions?
Yes, I have a question. Okay, our question, we use Con IT with our squadron. And the question is, whenever we do modifications on F-type contracts, we can't do the cars. They have to be manual. And we only have 4 people that can do a manual car that actually has access to FPDS-NG, next generation, to do the manual car. That slows things down. So now we're trying to write everything they need for the car as a specialist and give it to them. But their time is valuable as well because they have their own workload and their own issues. I hate slowing them up for something we could do. Is there a fix for that soon?
Yes, CAR is one of the priorities in the backlog, and I think it's in the next sprint that you'll be getting that particular feature within Con IT. As far as who can get access, sorry, those lights are bright. As far as who can get access, I submit whoever wants access to the FPDS-NG site should have access. to do the manual cars. The problem with that though is once it's integrated into Con IT, you really shouldn't be doing a manual at that from that point forward any longer. So I'd suggest you get with your site super user and say, hey, let's start opening up this access so we can have our folks doing these cars. And really, the CEO is responsible for reporting that action anyway. That's their responsibility. So. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. So it's in the next release, not patch release. I knew you'd ask that. I'll have to validate that. Mark, can you tell me when the next? Okay, can you get a mic?
So the answer is within 2 weeks. There you go.
So, all right, it is 2 weeks.
So we've got our next patch that'll be coming out really shortly. I was actually just logged into Jira a minute ago and brought up what was in the patch that just dropped, and then what we have racked and stacked that's coming out in the next product release, which should be coming out relatively shortly. Then we go through our next 3-week cycle. So we drop patches every week, the little fixes, and then the next big one that'll come out. So that's what we're talking about for the next patch after that.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Liz Walker from RAF Lakenheath. We got a question Friday about whether we would prefer, our vendors would be okay with us paying everything in dollars instead of pounds.
That's not what that email said.
Okay.
Let me clarify. Let me clarify what that email says.
Yes.
Or let me clarify what was meant to go out. PRs that come in, the funding of it is U.S. dollars. We fund in U.S. dollars. We do not fund in foreign currency. We don't have foreign currency in the U.S. We got U.S. dollars. Your contract is in whatever currency you need to issue it at. So the problem right now is, and I'll tell you, it's a Con IT problem, but it's also a Deems problem. Deems funds in foreign currency, and they should not be doing that. But that's part of that Oracle suite. And so they don't touch that. What you should be receiving is PRs in US dollars, and then you decide as the contracting professional what currency you're actually going to issue that contract in. That's what the question that went out with was supposed to say.
Because our vendor base would obviously prefer pounds whenever possible. We're also seeing that for the most part, almost all of our migrated in contracts, so we're trying to do funding mods or things like that are in pounds. Con IT does not like them at the moment. So we're working around that, but just for feedback purposes.
Okay.
That's a lot of our work. I'm sure my counterparts in USAF and PACF experience some of the same problems, but it's just making everything even more difficult to get stuff done.
In migration issues, what you're highlighting, ma'am, are, I think, right below the car issues on the priority list. So we're working those.
Let's make sure that priority list gets out.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, that way everybody sees where they're at.
It's already out on our SharePoint site. You can go out there and see our backlog and the priorities that are out there. So we'll make sure we get it out and get the link out for you all to see it.
Hi, Lieutenant Carol, Tinker Air Force Base. I had a question about how the help desk communicates with each other. It seems like we have a lot of the same recurring issues on our contracts, but it will still sometimes take weeks and months to get a response back from the help desk people to fix our contracts, and it's really slowing things down for things that we think are going to be turned out really quickly.
Yeah, so this goes back to we were trying to dig ourselves out of a hole when this performance thing hit. And we knew it took a long time for you to get any results back. And quite frankly, we have about 700 tickets-ish right now, but we don't know how many are still really issues or not. So what I have the team looking at is cold calling and finding out what the real issues still are so we can focus our resources on those issues that still reside. But how we communicate back to the users has got to improve. And I've That's where that level 1, level 2 help desk support is going to come into play, and the additional resources at USDA, because there's nothing more frustrating for me or as a user to submit something and I don't hear anything for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It would drive me nuts, because I know what you're trying to get with your mission, so you need to be able to determine, okay, do I need to do manual, or can I wait for the fix that's going to be coming out next week? And that's the kind of input that we need to be providing you back on your issues.
Is there ever also going to be a time when us as users can submit tickets directly rather than going through the super user and kind of them playing the middleman?
Oh.
I have a lot of questions, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't, let me take that. Take that as an action item. I don't know the answer just because of the security things, it's all that. But let me take that as an action, I'll get back to you.
All right, so on your first question, just so you know, I got a briefing 2 weeks ago from the program manager, and they are well aware of that problem, and they believe that's unacceptable as well. What he mentioned to you about the fixes that, you know, when I flew out to Fort Collins in December, they had the government shutdown issue, that got restarted. They identified the funding to hire more USDA coders because some of these problems require coders, and we got to increase the pipes, the capacity for the coders. And as with our civilian personnel problems, they're having trouble getting the hiring actions completed, right? So we're staying on that. The program manager is well aware of that. And then what Patrick referred to too is even if we don't have the pipes yet to get to that particular one, we need to communicate that back better. They are well aware of that. And I heard the program manager sit in my office and say, it's unacceptable and we're going to fix that. So please be patient. They are aware, but please be patient. These fixes are coming in serial fashion, and we've had some challenges with the shutdown and other things. But everybody has a sense of urgency, and I think everybody is hearing you loud and clear is what I'm going to tell you. I am hearing you loud and clear. Okay? And my overall intention, understand this, communication is hard. When I think I've communicated something like 1,000 times in 1,000 ways, and then I hear somebody say, how come you don't ever tell us these things, right? And it's not because you're not listening, and it's not because I'm not trying, or in this case, anybody, right? Communication, folks, is so hard. It really is hard. And so that's why, we got to use the methods we've got for asking the questions, but I need you to understand my intention clearly, out of my own mouth. My intention is max transparency. My intention is not to break trust with this workforce. I'm going to tell it like it is, and I don't care who likes that and who doesn't. I'm going to listen to what you give me, and I'm going to work it for you. And if you think that you're not getting information from me or somebody else in this enterprise, right, that meets that standard of maximum transparency, keep fighting through the communication gap, because that is the intention. That's my direction and guidance to my own team. And then that's the way that we're going to roll. That's the only way we're going to fix this. Okay?
Man, I'm cramping up.
Hello, sir. My name is Dave Sharp from SMC, and my question, 2 parts. First, what's the likelihood that this will never work with the systems environment? And 2, what is being done with Conwright to try to fix Conwright for the next couple of years?
I have a very high confidence it will be able to support all contracting across the board, regardless of what it is. That's grants, contingency, R&D, ALCs, everything, LCMC, everything. I have full confidence it'll be able to do that. As far as Conwright and fixing it, this is where we're going to have to come together as a team and figure out okay, when can we start working on increment 2, and how much money do we invest to keep Conrite going versus shifting resources over to start on our increment 2 and getting Con IT to support that effort as well. Because it's going to require a lot of functional support for the development for our increment 2. It's going to require a lot. So where do we apply our resources going forward? So that's something we're going to have to talk with AFMC on and the ALCs to figure where that balance is. Okay?
Hi, sir.
Well, I got to go. Give it up. Yeah, yeah. Make it, yeah, sure. Actually, I'd say 95% confidence. I got a 95% confidence level. I will make it work.
Okay.
I will make it work. Somehow, it will work.
All right, that's good. We have time for one more question.
Great.
Hi, Kat Corbin, Eglin Air Force Base, AFTC. Curious if you have anybody dedicated to work in the CLS issues that we have with DOD?
Yes, she's on my staff, Ms. Tracy Crockett. And I can get you her information. She's my Clause Logic POC that works directly with them. And we actually sent her for a broadening opportunity to OSD, so she's intimately aware and working those issues. So I'll get you, we'll post that information out there for you. She may be watching. She should be watching.
Thanks.
You watching?
Okay, sir. Actually, I do have one last question. Since this was created by the USDA, don't you find it ironic that we have beef with them?
Prime cut, baby.
Hey, thank you. I want to thank you all for your candor and your patience and your professionalism as we work through this really tough problem together. So, anyway, thank you and please pass on my thanks to your folks for their patience and professionalism. I know how much workaround and work and manual activities going on, and I have sat in your seats and I know how crushing that is. I promise you we're going to work this until it is fixed, okay? Thanks.